Is it? There it is. Huh. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode here at the Fit Fire Podcast. This is your wonderful host, TJ Williams, certified AFOS group fitness instructor, of course, body combat instructor, here to give you an insight of my fitness journey, discussing and analyzing fitness-based subjects, and highlighting individuals all over the world, past, present, and future. All right, it's been a long time since I've done this, nor because of course I had a busy life, but you got to catch up on everything that you do with your life. But yet I am back on track, and here I am back doing another episode here of the Fit Fighter because I am the most hardcore fit fighter of the world. Well, not in the world, but where I'm at. But anyway, I'm just glad to be back, and just give you the heads up. This is a pre-recorded episode for you listeners. So whatever you hear in this episode, it's either past or is coming up. And I like to give a shout out to one special person. Of course, you know him because he's the most famous person in the world. Today is the season premiere of Grandmaster Chuck Norris as he turns 84 today. So I'll be seeing him in July. Although I wish I seen him last year because, of course, it was a schedule conflict, and I was hoping he's get to put the black jacket on me. But yet, since he's coming back to the International Training Conference in Las Vegas in July, I'll maybe ask him to put the black jacket on me when I see him. Yeah, so it's going to be exciting. All right. So with all that aside, with my return here at the Fit Fighter, I have a guest that's going to give you an exciting story. Of course, she's a certified board specialist in cardiovascular and pulmonary physical therapy, carries a bachelor's and doctorate degree in that field, published and presented numerous of areas of cardiac and pulmonary physical therapy. And aside of her professional background, she's a runner. Yeah, this is gonna be a side episode because definitely I'm gonna get tips from her. Doing obstacle course races, competing in her first triathlon last year, and I guess she's preparing for a new one or next one this year. And I'd like to introduce you to her. We got Pam Bartlo, and of course she's definitely a wonderful person, and definitely I can't wait to give her the greatest interview in the world. All right, how are we doing there, Pam?
We're great. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, that was like a marathon of a intro I just did.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So other than that, how are we doing?
We're doing great. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Like I said, it's kind of neat that our paths have crossed over the last couple of months, so it's been fun to get to know you and to be here.
Yeah, it was so great that you kind of introduce yourself to me when I first met you, and I hold the door open for you because when we go to Anita's class. I mean, definitely, I'm sad that I missed out on yesterday's class, but I always make it up with my own workouts. But hopefully, I'm back next week.
Yep.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do in this podcast. You're gonna bring us back in time where like let's say before you got into fitness. So basically, who were you before you got into fitness?
Yeah, sure. So growing up, I just kind of always, obviously, we were always outside, but played sports a lot. I grew up in a baseball loving family, so I've played softball since I was probably like 6 years old. So played softball all the way through, and we would go camping and we would, ride our bikes everywhere in the summer. And so it was interesting. It wasn't growing up, it wasn't straight fitness that I kind of did or watched. My mom and dad golfed, and so I started golfing at a young age. And my dad, every once in a while, he'd say, "I'm getting in shape," and he'd go running, for like a week, and then he'd stop. But we were always super active. And so then into sports or into high school, I played sports through high school. I played softball first. I had been a gymnast and they had cut the gymnastics team. And so I had friends that played basketball or volleyball, and more of them played basketball. So I said, "Oh, I'll go play basketball." So I played basketball from eighth grade through senior year of high school. And so it was kind of one of those things where I was just always doing sports. And I tell my kids now that I was never the greatest. Like there were always people way more talented than I was, but every coach always wanted me on their team just because I always worked really hard and I was smart and I'd learned the game. So even if I didn't know exactly, like I couldn't do exactly what I wanted to, I always knew what to be doing. And so they liked me out on the field because even if I wasn't the one that could execute it or out on the court, I always knew kind of what was going on. So in basketball, I was always a point guard, even though I wasn't the best handler ever, but I was a good defender and I was, a good free throw thrower because I could do that practicing, that kind of stuff. So it was one of those things where it was just kind of always there, even though it wasn't, something that was prescribed and said, this is what you should be doing.
Oh man, amazing. I mean, you pretty much answered my second question, like how that you're pushing the fitness, and like it's almost like a resume. It's like you started doing outdoor activity, and then of course it pushed you to doing other activities like playing sports. And the fact that you didn't do one sport, you did more than one. So that's like almost an indemnity to like what you were doing now.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, it just kind of was always there, and even into adulthood, then it kind of be there. I actually met my husband from slow pitch softball. So I had a friend, actually I had met a friend through a step aerobics class. She was the instructor, and she knew I played softball, and she said, "Hey, we have a softball team that needs girls." And so I said, "All right." And I went, and my husband was one of the players on the team, and so the rest is history. And so it's kind of, sports has sort of always been there, and kind of just being active.
Amazing. Uh, do you find any big challenges or difficulties going through fitness?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think, so as I've grown older, things have changed too. So as I had kids, sports just wasn't really a big option that didn't fit my schedule well. And so I think that's one of kind of the big challenges with fitness is figuring out what works for you schedule wise and motivation wise. So I actually became a runner after my kids were born. I used to think of running as punishment for my sports. So I always hated running. And then after my kids were born, I'm like, okay, I need to get in shape. I felt winded when I was playing with them, and I just felt icky. And I couldn't really make it to the gym, and I wasn't going to be able to really make sports. So I said, you know what, running something I can go do on my own. And I would get up before the kids were even awake. So it was usually about 5:50 in the morning. I would get up and I'd go run outside so that I was back and showered by like 7:10, and then it was time to get them up. And so I think one of the big challenges for fitness for everybody is figuring out how to fit it into your schedule, because it's not like you're just going to have these big blocks of time that you go, oh, gee, I think I'll go exercise. You have to schedule that and make that time. I'm somebody that prefers early morning workouts. I find way too many excuses later in the day. And so I running seems to still be the one I like most, but I do a lot of other things. A lot of the fitness classes don't necessarily fit my schedule because they're either a little earlier or a little later. So I hit fitness classes when I can. But I think that's one of the big challenges for people is sort of figuring out that schedule and then kind of making yourself stick to that.
Yeah, pretty much can relate to that. Of course, when I used to have like one job, one part-time job. This is like when I was in school. I was going to Buffalo State, and I was trying to figure out like of course, before I go to work, like it was a lot easier when I was going to school and I had one job. And of course, I was easy to go to the gym, and because I was like so committed to like going out for a run or even going to the gym. And let's just say, probably back to my day, I probably hold the record of the longest elliptical run. Usually, I don't know what the record is now. Maybe it's like more than that because I would usually go like 2 hours and 5 minutes on the elliptical. So that was pretty much my
That's great.
record. Yeah, that's why I get people's attention.
Yeah.
I'm here minding my business, and I'm just doing my thing. I get people talking to me like as I'm an inspiration. I don't mean to be an inspiration, but it's just like people see you, and then it's like they want to see what you're up to, what you're playing, so they can follow it in their own way. So yeah, I can relate. But now since I got my full-time job, it's like yeah, I had to get those early morning workouts before I go to work. So of course, yeah, like I said, if I don't do it early in the morning, then I'll probably have an excuse not to do it later on. So that's pretty much how you best put it.
Yeah, and that's just it. And everybody figures out their own. Like I said, I'm an early morning person. My husband in the winters, he'll run on the treadmill, and he's 4 or 5 o'clock at night. He kind of finishes his day and then does it before dinner. My son is now a senior in high school. He loves to hit the gym. He will not go before 8 p.m. because he doesn't like that it's crowded. So he'll hit the gym at 8 p.m. So, everybody kind of figures out their own schedule. My daughter's a swimmer. She actually swims in college at a D1 school. And so she's very regimented. Hers have to be done at certain times. She's got to be in the middle of practice or at the weight room or whatever. So, hers, she doesn't have that choice right now. She's in a structured program. So it's just kind of interesting that you figure out what works for you. But it's just the key of figuring that out and then just making sure you stay on that schedule.
So it's looking at like the probably listening to you talk like you had like plenty of goals in mind like after you started becoming a runner. So of course, how many different goals you have before you kind of dawn to your like ultimate goal?
Yeah, so, for me, my goals kind of change all the time. So when I first started running, there's a thing, it's around the country, and I think 6 or 7 different places. It's JP Morgan Chase runs what they call the corporate challenge. So it's a 3.5-mile run, and it's for businesses, like you run for your company sort of thing, but it's in Buffalo, it's usually about 11 to 13,000 people do it. And the company I was with years and years ago, we would do it and I couldn't run it. I just wasn't a runner then. And so I would kind of walk it and then run it a little bit and walk it and run a little. And so after I had my kids, most people go to this thing to drink afterwards with their company. But I had decided this one year, I said, I want to actually be able to run it. So I actually trained to be able to run this race that most people just have fun and drink. So I trained and ran that. And then as I was finishing that up, one of my neighbors said to me, he goes, "Well, why are you going to stop?" He's like, "There's races every single week." And I was like, "You're right." And so that's kind of when I first started kind of developing those sorts of goals. And for a while, it was just to do a bunch of 5Ks. I, had a little bit of goal times, but I didn't, it was really just to stay active and do 5Ks and have fun. And then fast forward a few years, I never really did anything more than 3.5 miles. And then I'm at a birthday party for a good friend of mine. He was turning 40 at the time, and he and his wife were running a half marathon the next weekend. He was not a runner. And I kind of stood there and I'm like, well, if he's running that, why am I not doing that? Like, why have I always thought in my head that I can't do that, that I'm not far and I don't run far enough for that? So that next year, my goal was a half marathon. I have now at this point done 18 of them. Um, and then I said, well, when I was training for the half marathon, I said, why am I not just going to do a full one? So I actually ran my first full one and it did not go the greatest. I ended up with an injury right before about 2 weeks before the race, my last long training run. So the race did not go the greatest. I had pain by mile 8. I made it all the way to mile 20 before I had to start doing some walking. But then I had to walk, like I would basically walk a tenth and then run a mile, walk a tenth, run a mile. By the time I crossed the finish line, I think I probably could have walked faster on a regular day. Like I was running so slow. So I said, all right, that didn't go well. It took me about a year and a half to come back to the point where I said, okay, I'm ready to run another one to make sure I run the whole thing. And so I ran the whole thing. Again, I ran kind of slow, but it didn't matter. I ran the whole thing. And then when I was done, I was like, okay, I don't really have any desire to do that again.
Yeah.
But then obstacle course races, people, friends of mine were doing Tough Mudders, and I thought, I can't do that. It's too much. I don't do that kind of training. And I had a friend that called me up and said, hey, let's do a Tough Mudder 5K for our birthdays. I said, all right. And then after I did that, I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Like, yeah, the obstacles are kind of tough, but I could do that. And so then there's one in Buffalo that comes up every year. That's a nice big team one. And the first time I actually ran it with our friend Anita's group. And now since then, I have my own team. We had 13 of us last year on our team, and it's a 5-mile race with 30 obstacles. And I can usually only accomplish about half the obstacles, but I try every single one of them. And most years I get a little better at them. And it's just, we have a blast on our team. We have a lot of kids on our team too, that, 14, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds of our kids that are running it with us. And so my goals kind of change each year. And then last year, my daughter said, I'm going to do, as I said, she's a swimmer naturally. She said, I'm going to do a triathlon. I said, I'll do it with you. And then my son said, I'll do it with you. So we all did our first triathlon. And then my husband watching us kind of felt guilty. So he's like, all right, I'll do the second one. So the second one we all did at the end of the summer. And this year, my daughter and I are going to, I didn't do the greatest on the one last year. I kind of I don't run well in heat. And so I was doing well until the run, and it was really hot that day, and it all caught up to me. And so I've never walked on a 5K before. I had to walk 3 times on that run because it just was so hot and I was dead. So this year I'm like, all right, my goal is to make that whole thing without running or without walking at all. And I don't care what my time is. So I kind of just sort of set goals depending on where I'm at in my journey and in my fitness process. And I think that's good for people, to kind of switch it up and to have that goal, but to not be beholden to the goal. Like if you change along the way, if things don't work out well, like they have many times for me, you readjust and the goal becomes a different goal to the one that you can actually hit.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you like I've done like 3 5Ks or yeah, before I kind of got into like doing professional wrestling. And
Yep.
of course, like that first one I did, I mean, I kind of finished like under like 30 minutes because I was training for that because I would be doing runs like outside. I run best when in the heat. I mean, that's just me. It's like I work harder when I'm hot. So
Oh,
really,
that's good for you. I can't do that.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's how I am. It's like if I
Yep.
have like a bad day and I'm hot, I work better when I'm hot. So yeah, so I'm pretty much, and like I said, I'm kind of working on the half marathon too, because I mean, before I got my knee injury, kind of went on like a long 10-mile run. So I was like,
Yep.
why not do like a half marathon? And of course, I was planning on doing one like last year, but since I had my knee injury and I had to recover,
Yep.
it was like it kind of hold me back. But like now I'm pretty much feeling fine with it. So I'm gonna try doing the Buffalo half marathon. So
That's awesome. So have you got your training plan all set?
oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm kind of hitting hard on a treadmill, like trying to test my endurance. And of
Yeah, because you
course,
should be probably about week 2 or so, 3 or so into your training. Um, yeah, and I would say the biggest thing on training for a half or any kind of a race, even if you've never run before and you just want to train for a 5K, it's to find a good training plan and follow that. I tend to tell people that are starting running, just and especially even I now at my age, I still do this, not to find one of those plans that's a 5 to 6 day a week running plan. They're too hard to stick with and you might get hurt. So stick with one that's a 5K or a half marathon training plan. You can do 3 days a week. You don't need more than that. For a full marathon, you can do a 4 day a week training. So I would definitely say make sure you've got kind of that nice training plan and stick to that. And just do your long run once a week. Don't worry about the speed. Use your tempo run 1 day a week to kind of push that speed a little, but on your long run, just worry about figuring out what works best for your body. So, what pace feels comfortable for you. As you start getting up towards 8, 9 miles, start to figure out what fueling you want to use. Obviously, lower mileage, you need to figure out your hydration. But start to figure out what works for you. There's lots of running chat groups, online Facebook groups, all of that too, where you can get a lot of information if you're somebody that doesn't know friends that run, because people can give you ideas of what sorts of hydration and fueling to use. Some people like handheld bottles they'll carry. I use a water belt because I don't want anything in my hands. So I carry my water on a water belt. Those kinds of things. But there's loads of good ideas out there.
yeah. So for the key for me for when I do running, it's like I look at an object like far away, and I
Yep.
try to run as far. I try to catch up to it. It's like if I try catching up to it, it like comes in faster and it grows bigger. So yeah, that's what I usually do when I'm running. It's like I try to find a object far away and see how fast I can get to that object.
That's really good. So I'm going to give you some advice somebody had given me once to help on those longer runs, like especially if you're in the half marathon and you're feeling it. Pick that object, but now pretend that there's a rubber band around you and that object, and it is pulling you closer and closer and closer to it. And that helps you kind of when you're having that struggle of moving forward. It helps you kind of feel like it's pulling you towards there, and that kind of helps.
Yeah, that's the best tip. All right, so who would you say you look up to on your journey?
Um, I don't have very specific people all the time. It just kind of varies. Growing up, I'm a big Philadelphia Phillies baseball fan, so Mike Schmidt was one of my big heroes. I actually went and saw him get into the Hall of Fame when I was in college. So that was kind of cool. When I first started running, or really when I was doing some long distance run, Iliad Kipchoge is this amazing marathon runner. He's the only man that has ever broken 2 hours. It's not technically on a race because it was a closed course. He had the world record until in the marathon, until just like last year, it just got broken. But he's just effortless. But he actually will talk about the work ethic he has. So when you watch him, it looks so amazing and natural. And obviously, he has natural talent, but he's just a workhorse. Like he puts in the work all the time. And I love that. Again, as I said, I wasn't always the best, still I'm not always the best. And so I'm just a workhorse and I like that. I have to say now I look up to my kids a lot too. As I said, my daughter's a D1 swimmer that she growing up played every sport under the sun. I mean, there would be weekends where she would have ski club Friday night, then she'd go to swim practice Saturday morning, to the horse barn Saturday afternoon. She'd have softball practice Sunday morning, and then we'd go skiing as a family Sunday afternoon. Like it would just be crazy. So she played a ton of sports, but probably around COVID time is when she realized swim really was it, and she wanted to swim in college. And she made sure she put in that work, even, and she had a rough time through COVID that her club wasn't swimming. She broke her wrist through there, and the perseverance. And then in college, she got in, and it was a little tougher than she expected, and it took a little bit of growth for her to figure out where she was. And this season, I mean, she had an amazing season. She hit PRs, like personal bests, in every event she had, and she goes out there and she gets it done. And then my son, he's one that he's never been one to be super competitive. Like the rest of us are a little more competitive than he is. He's a little more laid back, but he's just got this body built for endurance, and he can just go and go. Like we went hiking for our family trip in the Grand Canyon a couple years ago. The morning we left, so we hiked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, spent the night, and then hiked out. He was way ahead of us the day before, and we kind of kept holding him back. The morning we were leaving there, as soon as it got light, we said, just go. He finished an hour and a half before we did. Like the kid can just go. And now he hits the gym and he's like ridiculously cut. But I just love watching him in endurance things. He does do track, and it's just, he doesn't actually do the longer events because he doesn't love them. He gets bored, but he does kind of those middle distance events, and he just locks in, and it's really cool to watch him. So I just love watching them now that they're getting older, and seeing how cool it is for them to inspire me. But I also just, like I said, it's anybody that's inspirational. So, if I see somebody there's a guy I just started following on Instagram. He's got like 40 followers, but he posts every day about his running journey. He's running a marathon. He's like, I don't care if I don't have a lot of followers, if I inspire one person. And I'm like, you know what? You inspired me, just because it's awesome to watch somebody on their journey. This past week, the other day, I was driving someplace and I saw two different guys that were just that mid 40s, overweight, out of shape looking dad bod. And they were running, they were doing a run. They both inspired me. I'm like, that's the person I want to see out there. They're taking charge of their own body. They're out there trying to get themselves healthier. Like, how could I not get motivated and inspired by that person, and want to cheer for them? So that's kind of where I am. I don't have like real specific people all the time, but it's just anybody that's sort of challenging themselves and putting in the work. That's who I just get a kick out of, inspiring me and motivating me.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I don't have kids of my own, but I got my two nieces, and they're very
Yep.
competitive. I mean, my youngest is like doing soccer, and she travels to like different like she has different like sporting competitions, and of
Yep.
course, I never got to see her do soccer. I mean, got to see my oldest niece play soccer when she was little, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I got to worry about my oldest niece being a teenager, and
Yeah.
uh, and she's about as tall as me now,
Yep.
so. Yeah, it's just like the
But
size. So
but
Detroit, Michigan.
that's the cool thing. If you can get them into fitness and sports, overall, it tends to help them through those teenage years too, because it helps give them a little bit of an identity. It helps keep them a little bit out of trouble. Obviously, we all know of some sports teams that get in trouble, but for the most part, it keeps them out of trouble. And it helps them weather some of that teenage angst that happens through, bullying and all that kind of stuff. If they're a little more sure of themselves, at least in one area, on the court, in the field, in the pool, wherever it is, it kind of helps. So definitely with younger kids, I think it's great to get them into sports, and they don't have to necessarily be super high competitive level. My son played travel baseball for like 2 years, and he's like, yeah, it's not for me. I'm like, that's fine. We don't care as long as you're doing something.
Yeah, and I kind of have to go back when you were saying that you got people that are not in the best shape going out there and
Hmm.
getting going to work out. This is why I always like to welcome uh people that are like really trying to get back in shape into my fitness class. I mean, I don't want to be that person that's always judgmental. I'm looking for healthy people to come. Looking for everybody that wants to work out, either if you're healthy or you're trying to get back to it. I mean, I want that. I want them to be inspired by not what do I do, but what they're doing.
Yeah, and I'm sure, knowing your personality, that you reach out to them and you kind of make them feel welcome. And
Yeah, it's like I always like make my fitness classes like a comedy show. Like really, they people like comedy. You know how I am in Anita's class.
yep.
Every time she posts a picture, and I'm doing something funny, and I have to put like a comment there to make it like ironic. So yeah, that's like something that I love to do. And definitely that picture you had with
Yeah.
Anita's camera, I had to use that as a meme. So it's like yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm like that too. I like to kind of just make workouts more fun. But I think it's important what you were just saying in your class, because it's those are the people that are going to come back. Like if you make them feel welcome like that in your class and you're kind of engaging them, then they'll come back. It takes so much courage for somebody out of shape to take that first step, walk into a gym, walk into a class, go out for a run. And so the more other people support them, the more likely they are to stick with it, because otherwise they already felt out of place. And then if they go in there and they feel like they're on their own, they're not going to come back. And so I think that's huge that you kind of welcome those people in that are starting their journey and kind of make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same way I do with my martial arts class, with these kids. Like I said, I'm probably the one person that can save these kids from getting out of trouble. Like you mentioned, like,
Yeah.
you get these kids in like the sports and everything, so you keep them out of like certain trouble. No, that's the problem with society today. Too many of these kids are getting a bad influence, and people like me and you have to like almost give them a reason to stay out of trouble, like give them some reason that, yeah, this is what you can do to stay out of trouble versus, you go out there and you get in the wrong crowd. And the next, you're in that situation that you feel like you can't get out of.
And martial arts is such a great way for you to reach them too, because it gives them a way to channel that negative energy. A workout, yeah, you can kind of get the good endorphin feel afterwards, but through a martial arts or through a boxing class or something like that, they get that ability to take out that aggression too, that frustration of feeling like they don't have support, or maybe the frustration of what they're lacking in their life. They can take that frustration out and find a way to channel that in a good energy, instead of getting into those things that aren't healthy and can cause them to be going down a wrong path.
Yeah. I think I'm afraid of even asking, well, even challenging Anita, because I know she probably judo throw me to the ground. Yeah. No nurse. I mean, she's smaller than me, but I know looking at her, she probably simply judo throw me to the ground.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's insane. I always tell her. I said, but in a good way, Anita. I said, you're so and you could just take anybody on.
Yeah, this it's amazing that her whole family is like judo, like
Yep.
I mean, that's not me and my family. I'm like the only person in my family that's in the martial arts. I mean, people have gone into martial arts in my family, but I'm the one that sticks to it, and then that's why I'm currently high ranked. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That was something we never really got into anybody. And I mean, when growing up, I didn't even know anybody that was doing anything like that. And then my kids, it just wasn't something they really ever got into. And so I think it's really cool to watch people. I have a good friend that's a black belt in karate. Actually, he's one of the guys that does obstacle course racing with me. And he's a former Marine, and he's really cool. When two or three of his buddies from the dojo are now on our obstacle course team, and it's really cool when they'll kind of get together and do some stuff before or after the race. It's funny.
Yeah, I probably like to get those guys on my other podcast, Kick Pod. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're like I said, there's three or four of them that they're all from the dojo. And again, he's in his later 50s. The rest are in their kind of early 50s or 40s. And so it's kind of really cool the experiences they all have too.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely, I'm definitely gonna have to get a hold of them if I can. So yeah,
Yeah.
that I. Oh, what subject do you feel people think they need to know about fitness?
Um, I think really for me, it's just that you just need to get moving. So, when I started out to be a physical therapist, I really thought I was going to do like your regular physical therapy that everybody does. And then I took the courses and I thought I was going to be somebody that treats shoulders. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to be like the shoulder guru. And then I did my first rotation in a hospital and I really liked it. And then I did my second rotation in a regular PT clinic and I didn't love it. I didn't hate it by any means, but I didn't love it. So then I figured I did one of my classes on cardiac and pulmonary. And I'm like, I really like that. So I did one of my rotations doing that and I just loved it. And so pretty much since the end of college, that's been my passion in physical therapy is heart and lung care. And so, I've been doing that for over 25 years now. And I mean, I've been a board certified specialist since '05. So I've really been doing specialist care since then. And I really just find the biggest thing is that you just got to get moving. There's so many things impacting. Heart disease is the number one killer for men and women and has been for decades now. And although the rates are slightly better, they're not great. And everybody just looks to the pill. Here's a new hypertension, like a high blood pressure medicine. Here's a new arrhythmia medicine. The pills are great, but that shouldn't be our first line of defense. It's all about movement and then looking at diet and stress and all those other things, quitting smoking. So I really just tell people the biggest thing is just to get moving. It doesn't have to be super strenuous. The guidelines from the American College of Sports Medicine is 150 minutes of activity a week at moderate effort. So what does that mean for the normal person? It just means 30 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week of pushing yourself at least at a moderate pace. If you go vigorous pace, you can do 3 days a week. That's why I say a running plan. You could run 3 days a week and you're going to at least meet, if not well exceed those guidelines. But let's say you're not somebody that wants to run, you just want to walk. That's great. Walk 5 days a week. But the key is you got to get your heart rate up a little bit. So, if you're walking the dog, you're probably not getting exercise there. You need to get the heart rate up a little. You need to get moving. But if you're somebody that likes swimming, do swimming. If you want to ride your bike, ride your bike. If you want to hike, if you want to walk, whatever it is, you just got to get your heart rate up a little bit. So I'll have patients, they'll tell me like, oh, I'm golfing. I'm like, golfing is a wonderful activity. Golf is not exercise. You're just not getting your heart rate up enough. So golf to enjoy it, but then you got to do something, find something that you like that's just going to get your heart rate up and keep it up there. And it doesn't have to stay the whole time. You can do, 6, 7 minutes and then take a minute or two rest and then do 6 or 7 minutes. There are great guidelines that you can chunk exercise up, like 10 minutes a day throughout the day. For your true heart health, that won't do it. You do have to have a good 20 or 30 minutes of what we call mostly continuous for that good protection at the heart. But for just regular general movement, yeah, you can do 10 minutes, like walk up and down the stairs 2 times. Or, if you're sitting at your desk, get up, walk down the hall and back 3 times, something like that. So I just tell people the more you can just get moving and figure out what you like for it, nobody else should be telling you how you have to exercise. You can figure out what you like best.
Yeah, so it's a good thing I became a fitness instructor. Then I have no excuse of not working out. So I mean, yeah, that's like the best trap I did. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
great because it's built into your job. Your job is to work out.
yeah, and I get paid for it too.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
you get to help motivate others too. And I find that's a really good thing that helps with consistency too, is if you're motivating somebody else, you have that obligation to them that you're going to show up because you have to be there.
yeah. So it's great that I actually go to Anita's classes. And I plan on going to like other instructor classes. Like I know this one instructor in Buffalo that I mean to try her class. And I see all these other fitness places. I want to get an idea of how to do my own workouts, not to steal their idea, but just kind of get a
Yep.
workout, like, because I don't want to do the same routine every time. I want to do something different. Like, say, if I'm like free on the weekends, and of course I can't go to Anita's class, I can definitely use one of those routines to like kind of make up for it. And that's just to keep me going. And you're right about movement. You have to keep yourself moving to like get your heart to be in the right place. And for me, I was like diagnosed with ADHD, I mean, I'm
Yep.
hyperactive. I can't sit down for a long time. I had to keep moving. And luckily I have a job where I am moving all the time. I'm not staying in one place. I had to like move certain places, like to do this and then do that. So like sitting down is not my best friend. It's like that's not
Yeah.
my best defense. I had to get up and start walking.
Yeah, and I'm like that too. I have a coworker now that she teaches spin class. I had never taken a spin class in my life. So back in like October, I said, I'll take a spin class with you. And I loved it. It's not something I could do 3 or 4 days a week. There's people that do. I can't. I have a 10 pack that I go when I can until when those 10 are done, I'll buy another 10. And I actually have a side business too where I'm a rep for an activewear company. And so one of my customers, she owns a gym kind of nearby. So I said, look, I'm not sure when, but sometime in the next week or two, like I'm coming into your gym and going to take one of your classes there. And because I like it to try different things. I have found for me, true running, biking, swimming, that kind of sustained aerobic activity is what I love the best. I lift weights because I have to, but I don't love lifting weights.
Mm.
I don't love the classes as much, but I have fun to do those mixed in here and there. So like you were saying, it's great to kind of figure out that variety so that you aren't doing the same thing, and your body not needs that too.
Yeah, I mean, of course, in between that week, your body needs to rest. So, I mean, you don't want to kill yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Just thinking about all this talk, the Summer Olympics coming up. It's just like I'm just like prepared to even watch it. Like I'm probably gonna watch like probably those long races. That's probably give you that motivation to even like go for it. Well, I know you're not planning to go on the Olympics, but yeah, I
No,
mean,
never getting there.
yeah, it's funny. I was like looking at like a post this morning, like almost like a reel. Like there's this like this one this gymnast. I mean, she's been doing gymnastics since she was 17, and she's like almost 50, and she plans
Hmm.
on getting ready for the 2024 Olympics. And I know she's like Russian, and it's like amazing that you start off doing gymnastics like you're 17, then you continue to do it while you're 50. So I don't know if there's anybody that I know of that's actually doing gymnastics at that age, but it's amazing that this person still want to like compete in like the Olympics. So I'm yet to see that happen.
Yeah, I love the Olympics. Like our family is just winter or summer, but especially the summer ones. We're just glued. We're recording everything. We're glued to the TV. Like I just love all like I said, the inspirational stories. I love watching people just really push themselves. And it's great to watch the world records get broken and the people to win. Like that's so awesome. But I just love watching the other people too. That maybe it's the back of the packer, but the fact that they're even at the Olympics is an amazing accomplishment none of us will ever achieve. Like I love the Olympics. I think they are the most like inspirational thing related to fitness every single time they come on. That and Ironmans. I mean, watching Ironman triathlons, those are another thing where the winners are fantastic to watch because they make it look so easy. But it's all those back of the packers, those people that have real jobs and families that decided to go do this for 12 hours. Like I have run a marathon. I have no desire ever to do an Ironman. Like, no, thank you. And it's just so cool to watch them the 12, 13 hours they've been going. It's just, I love that kind of stuff.
Oh, it's amazing. I actually met a gold medalist from the Olympics. So of course, people talking about him, Kurt Angle, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like that's probably one person that I actually met that was a Olympic gold medalist. Well, mostly I didn't know much about him until he started becoming a professional wrestler. And then, of course, yeah, that's my inspiration kind of to go into professional wrestling since I watched this since I was 4 years old. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I've been through the Hogans. I mean, Randy Savage, Ultimate Warriors, and of course Bret Hart's, and all those eras. And
Yep.
I don't watch it as much, but it's better for me nowadays. It's better for me to do it than to actually watch it because that's me actually pursuing a dream.
Right. But that was your inspiration. That was your motivation to say, look, I can do that. Why can't I do that?
Yeah, and the best indemnity was the martial arts because everything you find in like sports entertainment, it's like you could do it in the martial arts, and that's why, yeah, it's if I'm going to training, I'm not giving the trainer a hard time because everything it's like it comes naturally. It's like an indemnity, so it's like even the trainer asked me to help train the other trainees with that are having trouble with certain things, so that's really
Yep.
helpful for them. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, everything's awesome about me, even the
Yeah.
smile. Yeah, I turn my head sideways like I just smile. Yeah. Uh, all right. So before we kind of get to our hidden gym segment, here's the last question. What motivational and inspiring quote best describes your journey?
I use different ones all the time, but from running itself, the two I usually kind of remind myself while I'm running is you race how you train. And so if I'm having a bad day or it's not a great run, I'm like, I don't care. You race how you train. Like I can't, if I'm not pushing the right distance or the right speed in my training, I'm certainly not going to hit that on race day. And then specific to running, I am not somebody that loves hills. Most people don't. And of course, I'm in that group. I always recite in my head, power up the hill, power up the hill, power up the hill until I hit the tower, that top of that hill. I might not be going that fast, but if I'm reminding myself that, it does usually give me that boost to kind of make my way up there. But then, there's also just the overall fitness one I love is that if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. Like that just to me embodies sort of fitness. Like wherever you are, you do what you can do. And then there's just a fun one. It's not really related to fitness, but this is actually one we use in our house a lot. I kind of coined it with my kids early on is being the winner of the losers doesn't make you a winner. What it really means is to not make excuses. So it would be one of those, well, let's say they were showing up late to something. They're like, well, yeah, but so and so was late. And I'm like, okay, but it doesn't matter that they were late, that they were behind you even, where so and so did worse on the test or so and so did worse on this. I'm like, being the winner of the losers doesn't make you a winner. Like if you failed at something, you were late, you did poor on a test, you didn't do well where you were supposed to, like you still failed. So fix it and move forward. Don't use the excuse that somebody else was worse because that doesn't fix what you did. And, nobody's going to be perfect ever. And so you just have to keep moving forward. And so it's become a big joke in our house, but we'll say it all the time. We're like, hey, being the winner of the losers doesn't make you a winner.
Yeah, I kind of bring that kind of goes with the quote I had say, no matter how many championships you win, you're still a challenger.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Because that's a true. Like there's always the next battle you have.
Yeah, and I always that this is like what my track coach used to say. Some either a person either wins or lose by an inch. So yeah, it's like
Yep.
if you win, you train harder by an inch. If you lose, you train to win by an inch. So
Yep. Exactly.
yeah, it's all that inch should definitely determine if you're going to win and lose. And just thinking about when I was competing in the tournament, like karate tournament, it's like I lost by an inch by this actually high ranking black belt. I didn't feel bad about it, but I just said like I have to get better by an inch next year.
Yeah, that's just it. Like
Yeah,
if you put your all into it and your training had been there and somebody's just better than you can't be sad about that. Like my daughter's swimming and she swims D1. She's not the fastest D1 swimmers out there. Like she's not gonna be those kids going to the NCAAs. They're the ones going to the Olympics. That's not her level. She's never gonna be doing so. All the training she puts in, she's not gonna be swimming as fast as them. But she's not going to feel bad about that because she's giving her all. So in that karate tournament, you had trained, you had prepared, you gave your all. You're not going to feel bad because the guy just was better than you. And maybe he did or didn't put in more time than you. But like you said, you just look at how can I improve me a little bit more next year, and that's huge because it's always a battle against yourself more than anybody else.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached our hidden gem segment of the podcast. This is where I ask Pam 7 questions, pretty much outside of fitness, but yeah, some questions are concern fitness, but this is mostly her personal side of things. So, oh, this is the fun part, pretty much. All right, so here we go. You ready for this?
Sure, I'm ready.
All right. So the first question is the best advice you ever gotten.
Um, I would say just to do your best and people will respect that. Like just work as hard as you can and people will respect that. And then sort of advice I give to people though, as far as fitness, I always tell people it's never too late to start exercising, but it's always too early to stop. And that just goes back to our previous conversation with people with as they get older, especially with preventing heart issues, like just get moving.
Yeah. Yeah, just thinking about my mom, it's like she's like pretty much she beats me by 30 years. So I mean, because I'm 38 and well, of course she's 69, she's approaching
Mm-hmm.
70. And I see her almost like when I come visit, I see her like working out in her in her living room. I mean, she keeping herself moving. I mean, after having like 2 knee replacements. So
Yep.
yeah. I kind of use that almost an inspiration because yeah, she wants to keep herself moving. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's so important.
yeah. So, all right. Next question. The worst advice you ever gotten?
Related to fitness, it was probably when I was training for my half marathon, and somebody said, "Oh, you can use the water on the race course." So I had been training with a water belt, carrying my water with me, and somebody's like, "No, no, they have water on the race course. You don't need to wear your belt." I blew up in my first half marathon. I tried to just use the water on the race course, and it wasn't even necessarily a hot day, but it was not often enough for me. I hit about mile 7.5. I blew up on the side of the road. I was throwing up. I was barely able to move. It was awful. Some
Oh,
wonderful gentleman I've never met in my life again just comes across the course to me and says, "Do you need this?" and handed me a bottle of water. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And that allowed me, and he just then took off again. That allowed me to get up and I kind of walked and sipped water and ran and walked and ran to finish that half marathon. But I was like, that was the stupidest fight ever, was because it was a deviation from what I had trained with. So I always tell people now, don't do that. Stick with whatever you trained with.
yeah. Yeah, it was when I was like kind of looking like the registration of the half marathon. Like they said they give you like water every 2 miles. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, water and
Yeah, I would
Gatorade.
say for the Buffalo one, I would highly recommend bringing your own, because there's also some parts of the course that just vary. You know, there's not it's not a super hilly course, but there are some hills in there, and if the water stops not for another half a mile after that, you might have wanted that water when you reach the top of that hill or wherever. So that's when it's a great race. It's a lot of really fun cheering, especially for the half. So it really keeps you motivated. And it's a lot of different kind of situations you're in. You're out by the water, then you're in neighborhoods, then you're down by these grain silos. So it's fun. But yeah, that's when you're going to want to carry your own water because the 2 miles apart, it's just too far apart.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to stop. I want to just keep going. Like really.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, that's what I do. I just could pull the bottle out, take my sip, and keep on going.
yeah. All right. So next question. How would you reward yourself? I kind of call this the guilty pleasure.
Well, I love pizza and chocolate, especially peanut M and M's and pizza. Like it just, yeah, there's something good about those.
Yeah. I don't know. I have that Jedi sense that you're probably gonna say that, Phil. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of into the dark chocolate, and I usually like to go somewhere to eat pizza, but I'm like nowadays I want to make my own like from scratch. So yeah,
My husband's been into that the last few weeks. He's trying to get like the perfect. We have a bread machine that we used to make dough in, and now he's trying to get the perfect recipe of dough in there to make our own pizzas. So
yeah,
it's just any type of pizza is good. There's no such thing as bad pizza.
yeah. Well, people be saying that depending on where they go, but
Yeah,
Mostly New York State is known as having the best pizza.
Buffalo has good pizza. Like they just really, it's good pizza here.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite a drive for me, but I don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and definitely I'll be set to make more pizza braids for the next Christmas party. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Definitely, those were good.
yeah, definitely. I got a winner. All right, what famous celebrity would you like to work out with?
I'm not really sure there's a specific person I want to work out with. I'd love to watch David Goggins work out. He is so motivating to me, but I do not want to work out with him because he would be kicking my butt. Like there is no holding back with him. So I think I'd be miserable working out with him because he'd push me way too much. I'd love to watch him work out because he's just so inspirational. But I don't know. I mean, anybody that's just fun and active, I would love to work out with just because it's different. It's fun to work out with different people. I'm usually somebody that works out alone. And so anytime I'm with other people, it's just kind of fun to feed off of them.
Yeah, call me crazy. I'd like to probably work out with Denise Austin. You know, I usually
Yeah.
like I usually like watch her like shows like when I was in like before I go to high school or before
Yep.
high school now, it's like I just watch. I didn't actually do the exercise, but it's like nowadays it's like I want to try to like work out next to her and at least get a workout.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, that and Billy Blanks. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I used to do Taibo workouts and yeah, he was great. I love that they brought him back on commercials in the last couple years too. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Secret talent.
I'm actually a pretty good cook. I don't get to cook a lot of different things because I'm usually busy and it's what can we throw together for dinner. But I'm actually a pretty good cookie and baker. My kids for their birthdays every year, I would always say, "What kind of birthday cake do you want?" And so I would like decorate it. Early on, they were not very pretty. I have no kind of formal training whatsoever. So early on, they were a little rough. But as the years went on, I got some really cool ones in there. There was a year I made my daughter a dog cake that it was like a full dog and it had shaggy fur. And so that's, something people don't always know about me is that I'm a decent cook and a baker.
Yeah, I guess with Anita saying that we're gonna have like a sort of a cooking class, I guess you're gonna lead on to with that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, I like learning new things on it too, on how to cook the new things.
Yeah, this means like kind of get an idea of what like or cooking. No, I like to cook great. I like making meal preps. So I mean, I'm not cooking like during the week. I'm like I got the weekend to like kind of prepare meals for like my lunch and my dinner, so I don't have to worry about cooking.
That's great. I love when people do that. I am not a meal prepper. I can't do that. It's always just kind of figuring things out each day. But I think that's great for people that can do that because it just makes life much more manageable.
Okay. All right, here's the next question. If you were in a movie, what kind of movie would you be in?
I would probably say a romantic comedy. I'm a sucker for the good happy ending. Like I love when everything works out and it's a happily ever after.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you think of any movie that's a romantic comedy, what would be the movie?
Oh, um, we're going old school. Some of my favorites are When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle. Like I just, I love the people that come together when they weren't really supposed to be together, and well, they were, but they weren't together, and then they finally realize they're supposed to be together, and then it's the happy ending. Like I'm a sucker for those kind of movies.
Yeah,
Life
there's what
life's got enough troubles in it. I love when the movie takes you away and gives you something happy to think about.
that kind of reminds me of when I was a young kid. Like my favorite movie to watch was The Mannequin. So
Oh, I liked that movie. That was funny. Yep.
yeah,
Now I love action movies. I love that. Like our family's huge Star Wars fans. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So I love all kinds of movies, any of your dramas and some of your, not a big horror movie, but like the more of the thriller scary movies. But the romantic comedies are the ones that'll always just get my heart.
yeah. Speaking of Star Wars, I think there was like a marathon on yesterday. So
Oh, love it.
yeah, it's
Yeah, we've
amazing.
watched all of them multiple times.
Yeah, it's amazing how I like waited in line like for 2 hours to get a photo with Hayden Christensen, yeah, Anakin Skywalker. So yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, amazing. It's like really, he's like of course he didn't had a panel, so he's pretty much stayed until like closing time in Toronto.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was lucky I didn't have to wait all night. I mean, yeah, but no, I actually got that
That's
picture. It's
good
like
when they
yeah,
do that too, and they will stay. Because I hate when the actors will show up at things and they do their little wave and then they sign two autographs and leave. And it's like people are there for you.
yeah, yeah. All right, so here's the last one. 10 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Well, hopefully retired. My husband and I have this plan that when we retire, we're going to, it's not necessarily right away, but within the first couple of years, hopefully, to just get like a little small pull behind trailer and hit the country. We love traveling and seeing a lot of different national parks and sites and all that. We've taken the kids on a bunch, but there's just so much to see. And so we'd love to just kind of hit all these different national parks and all these places we haven't seen. And then there's several areas in the world that I'd like to visit. So that's ultimately the plan. We'll see. We're in that sandwich generation right now. Our kids are getting older, but we're taking care of elderly parents. So we kind of hold that back with we don't really know where we'll be in the next several years, and which, right now we're doing a lot to take care of my in-laws. My parents are several years younger than them, so then we'll have my parents. So, that's the plan, but we kind of wait and see. Family is such a big part of our lives, so that kind of drives a lot of our decisions ultimately with the kids to start with, but now at this point too with parents. So it'll definitely be something active. We both just love moving and doing things. So I can't foresee myself being somebody just sitting by a pool, retired. We'll be doing something active.
Yeah, I can see that with me. I mean, of course, yeah, try to help my father as much because he had his back surgery and he's trying to
Hmm.
run his business. And, I always ask him like, if you're looking for extra help, I'm always there to help you out.
Yeah, and I think they appreciate it so much too. They've invested so much time in us all those years that I think they appreciate. It's tough to ask for help from your kids, but I think they appreciate it when the kids are so willing to just give it.
Yeah. All right. All right. So before we kind of close out, is there any last minute words you'd like to say to our listeners out there?
I would just say, like I've said, get moving, and it's okay to ask others for help and support and ideas too if it's something you've never really done before. Like I said, I had never taken a spin class. So I went to my friend. I said, okay, well, what do I need to bring? Like, what am I going to be expecting? And, I'd been working out for years and it's something new. So don't hesitate to seek people that are more versed in that and ask them for help if you want to try something new.
Uh, oh, thank you very much for your time, Pam. So I'm gonna do my little closing to my podcast. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And yep, of course, I'm gonna get ready to go out and conquer the world. Well, maybe not conquer the world, just take on the world. All right.
Yes,
Uh,
and thank you so much for having me, TJ. I've appreciated it, and like I said, I love watching you do your stuff too. You got a lot of energy and positivity, and that's what I really am drawn to with people.
Yeah, kind of keep your life like a sitcom. Yeah,
Yep,
that kind of reminds me. I'm kind of getting my book together or trying to get things like ideas. So yeah, so I might change it up, but definitely that's my goal to try to get a book written. So
that's great.
yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today. So, but for those who are new to this podcast, make sure you tune into my previous episodes on bicbpradio.com, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And yet, I'll see you next time here for another episode here of the Fit Fighter Podcast. This is your host, TJ Williams, closing the gym. And right now.